everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we'll be predicting and deep diving into the AFC West. We'll be talking about each team's offseason starting lineups. We'll each predict each team's record, the winner of the division, as well as give out division awards at the end. Super excited to get into the AFC West. It's a special division close to both of our hearts. I'm a Broncos fan, Stores is a Chargers fan, so should be a very electric episode. A lot of insight, a lot of passion in this division. How are you, Josh? You excited?
Doing really good. Yes, obviously the most emotional video we'll probably make here for a while. A lot of passion. You said a lot of fire will be in this one. So I hope everyone stays tuned. It's going to be an exciting episode. And yes, a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge on this division because we live, breathe Broncos and Chargers football every day. So it should be fun to talk about it.
Absolutely. Just barely over 1 week until the season. Sounds absolutely crazy to say. It's almost here. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. Only two more of these deep dive episodes left. So super exciting times. Let's get right into the first team we'll talk about today, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers. Finished 5-12 last year, fourth in the division. Don't really need to talk about last year too much. The quarterback Justin Herbert does go down. It was kind of obvious that Brandon Staley was a mess, and they definitely got better. They had a busy offseason. They upgraded at coach, massively. They got a very good coach, and then they get their quarterback back from injury. But it is your Chargers store, so will let you kind of take over and get into this offseason.
Yes, and I'll just say one thing, for Raiders fans out there, that 63-23 might have been the best thing that ever happened to the Chargers organization because it flipped a switch into changing management and changing culture. You get rid of, long tenured Tom Telesco, who departs this offseason, who gets fired. You get rid of Brandon Staley, who gets fired, and you bring in a completely different regime. Ownership is now giving up power. They have given a lot of power to head coach Jim Harbaugh and kind of letting him handpick his GM with Joel Ortiz. And so it's just kind of been, from above the players to the upper management to the ownership. There's been a big culture change for the Chargers, which will be interesting because the term chargering, I think is what got Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco because it's been this never-ending cycle of finding any possible way to lose that you possibly can, whether it's Young Wei Koo missing field goals, whether it's calling a timeout and letting the Raiders go and beat you in overtime when you didn't when they were gonna tie the game to go to the playoffs, whether it's the choking debacle in Jacksonville. The term chargering is real, and so we're hoping to move into a new era. We're hoping to move into you know, a new culture of not charging football with bringing in a winning head coach and Jim Harbaugh, who should hopefully change over this organization. So I don't know if that's a good enough spiel for you guys, but there's a little insight above the players. But yeah, notable losses. It's a complete turnover of the roster, really. I mean, you lose Mike Williams, you lose Keenan Allen, you lose Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett. I mean, really your big ones are Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. Those have been your tried and true guys for the last decade. Um, Keenan Allen, obviously longtime Charger. That one's going to be crazy. The target share, I believe, is 85% of the Chargers offense has gone out the door. But, you change cultures, you move on regimes, you bring in offensive coordinator Greg Roman, who now it feels like it's going to be the Los Angeles Ravens over here with bringing in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Also, I mean, it's just we're the Los Angeles Ravens right now. But yeah, re-sign Alohi Gilman, bring in Bud Dupree, DJ Chark, Christian Fulton, Puna Ford. So it's a total shift. But I like the turnover of roster because things need to change.
You also bring in Tier Tart, who will
Sorry,
be
I'm out of breath.
No, no, good job. Good job. We got a big spiel there on the Chargers. And yeah, you also bring in Tired Tart, who will, be rotating in with that defensive line. So a pretty solid offseason. They definitely get better. It was very obvious that they needed to upgrade at coach. We've been saying it for, before this offseason for sure. And Harbaugh was the number one guy you wanted, and it kind of felt like it was going to happen always. It felt like the perfect match. And let's get into the roster because it will be trippy. Like you said, it will be very weird seeing the Chargers with kind of a smash mouth, pounded down your throat type of football game plan that they're gonna, have this year. And they've always just kind of had that sling the rock, high scoring games. You don't really play defense mentality, and it's going to be the complete opposite now with Jim Harbaugh and Roman coming in. So it will be very interesting watching this Chargers team. Really, the first thing I want to talk about with this offense is the offensive line. It's kind of been a downfall for the Chargers for a long time is the offensive line, but you go out there and you make the smart pick with the fifth overall pick. You get Joe Alt, who was easily the best lineman in the class out of Notre Dame. I thought he was a generational lineman. I really think he can just be easily one of the best tackles in the NFL day one, kind of like Rashawn Slater has been, but easily one of the best tackle duos in the NFL. And it's so young, it will be for a long, long time. The, I really like Zion Johnson at least. Hopefully Pipkins can kind of play solid at right guard, and then Bradley Bozeman has the familiarity with Greg Roman. The offensive weapons will be a little bit scary. You're really counting on a really good run game, a really, really solid run game. And then obviously you've got the alien Justin Herbert right there with the 85 PFF grade. Justin Herbert will be really solid in the red zone. He'll be very accurate and, make it easy on these receivers. And I do think, like, going into fantasy, Ladd McConkey will be the guy in this offense. I think Ladd McConkey will be the wide receiver one. Eventually, I don't know about day one, it will probably be Palmer, but I am really excited for Ladd McConkey in fantasy.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just going to reiterate on what you said. This is going to turn into kind of a more run first team, kind of that more balanced approach. It felt like in the old regime, it was so reliant on Justin Herbert playing Superman every single game. And so what this new regime does is they go out and they invest in the offensive line. Obviously, you spend your top 5 pick and you bring in a premier right tackle, a guy who played lefty switching to the right. You have Rashawn Slater, who's in my opinion, top 3 best left tackle in football. His PFF grade doesn't reflect it. He was playing with a couple injuries last year. But yeah, I mean, you have Bradley Bozeman, who's a mauler in the middle, a big center. Trey Pipkins, who's transitioning to guard, but ended up beating out Jamari Sawyer, and then Zion Johnson, who's been a little underwhelming, but definitely has potential. So, I mean, you have 3 first round picks on this offensive line. So you've heavily invested into this. You've heavily invested into protecting Justin Herbert. And you bring in 2 very capable running backs in J.K. Dobbins. And you bring them in on good deals. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think he's making over $1 million this year. It's a 1-year prove it deal. And so they're kind of taking that Houston Texans approach of you sign a bunch of veterans and you give them those 1-year prove it deals. And if it doesn't work out, oh well, it's a 1-year deal, you move on. But if it does and they go sign elsewhere, he's building this comp formula. And so it's gonna create comp picks. So it's brilliant by Joel Ortiz. I don't know how competitive the Chargers offense is looking this year, as obviously you see the wide receivers. And Brendan Rice shows that he's starting. It will be DJ Chark as the wide receiver 3. Brendan Rice did make the roster today, so shout out to him as a 7th round pick. But yeah, the wide receivers are definitely underwhelming. The tight ends are a little underwhelming. So it's just heavily, reliant on this run game. I think the play action is going to be fantastic for Herbert. And Palmer and McConkey are definitely capable receivers. And from a fantasy aspect, like you said, it's Ladd McConkey and Justin Herbert are really the only 2 I'm targeting. Josh Palmer is obviously worth a dart throw in the later rounds because he should be starting at X.
Yeah, I will say PFF kind of just fumbled on this graphic completely. I think there's 3 wrong starters listed here. I think I'm very 100% confident that Will Disley will start at
Yeah, he
tight end.
will. Yes.
He's awesome. I really thought that was a great underrated signing. He can obviously block really well, but he's a really solid receiver as well. It seems like they brought Hayden Hurston to be more of a blocker, as you see that 44 PFF grade last year. He was kind of rough outside of blocking, and I do think he'll just be that second blocking guy. And I really am excited for Will Disley. He might even be a fantasy sleeper. The other thing I disagree with, you mentioned already, it won't be Brendan Rice starting on the outside. Sadly, I loved him, had him ranked above first round receiver Xavier Worthy. I absolutely am excited for him, but it will be DJ Shark and Quentin Johnson kind of rotating on the outside in that spot with Brendan Rice. And then
Yeah.
Gus Edwards will be starting on first and second downs. I do think that they paid him, that he was like one of the first signings of free agency. I do think they like Gus Edwards. Obviously, he was really solid for the Ravens last year, had a lot of touchdowns, and I think he will fall into the end zone a decent amount this year. So he could be a maybe like the third fantasy option in this offense that I would be targeting just for the touchdown upside. And then, yeah, you're really just relying on your alien robot quarterback, Justin Herbert, to really maximize these guys and, be accurate in the red zone and get the touchdowns when your run game is working.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think, from a fantasy aspect, I think both running backs are worth a dart throw, honestly. I don't think it hurts either way. Both are prone to injuries, both are recovering from injuries, funny enough. But yeah, I think both of them, where they're going in the draft, I believe it's between, the 10th and 14th round of your fantasy drafts. So don't be afraid, this is going to be a run heavy team with, pretty good offensive lines. So don't be afraid to draft either one of them. I think they could both be, extreme values at where they're being drafted.
Absolutely. Let's go on to the defense after talking about the offense. And I am excited about this defense that lost Brandon Staley, but I am more optimistic about, honestly, Jesse Minter. I think Jesse Minter could be one of the up and coming defensive minds, young defensive minds in the NFL. I could totally see him being a head coach eventually here in a few years if he succeeds. So I do want to see Junior Colson starting ASAP because I think he'll know this defense better than anyone on the team. Being from Michigan, having that experience with Minter, I am very excited for Colson to get healthy and then kind of just plug right into this defense with Denzel Perryman, who was a good signing. He was very solid for the Chargers a few years ago. He was solid for the Texans last year. Defensive line, you got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, obviously two stars, borderline superstars. Khalil Mack had a complete rejuvenation last year. He was a superstar last year. You got Thule who can move inside, outside. He can, stand up. He can go in the 3-point stance. He's very, very versatile and solid. One of my favorite players just because of that versatility. They bring in Bud Dupree, which will be a fun third down type of edge rusher to get after the quarterback. Secondary is where I am a little bit more scared. Asante Samuel is your CB1, and with his height, and I don't know if he's the best prototype to be a CB1, although he is coming off a good year last year. He's a good corner. I just kind of like him more as a high-end CB2. You bring in Christian Fulton, who's coming off a bad year, but I do like the signing. I think it's a good, just dart throw to start on the outside at corner. So I do like that. Just see your Taylor starting in the slot. I do want to see the Chargers try to get that Desmond King reunion going because I think he would be an awesome addition to this defense. But yeah, other than that, obviously you got two star safeties. Alohi Gilman, maybe the most underrated player in the NFL at this point. He's awesome. I loved him. But yeah, really solid defense with Minter.
It's super, super, interesting defense, in my opinion. It's very, very heavily reliant on this pass rush staying healthy and getting after the quarterback fast, which I think Jesse Minter, as we saw in preseason, kind of gave a little snippet of what he's going to be doing, and it's going to be bringing the house. And that's one thing I'm excited about with this linebacker core too is I think they're very capable blitzers. I think with Perriman, Deion Henley, who was a standout in the preseason and looked, really sharp, and Junior Colson. I mean, I think they're good downhill, linebackers. Henley and Colson sneakily good in the pass game as well. But I'm excited just to see what Minter deploys. He blitzes a lot, which I love to see, and I think that'll be very exciting because it's definitely got a compensate for the secondary. Obviously, Alohi Gilman back there, borderline superstar, just a phenomenal talent. Derwin James had a terrible season last year. Hopefully, he rejuvenates himself and becomes that top safety in the league with Jesse Minter. But the corners are definitely suspect and very scary. I mean, Sante Samuel Jr., a very good corner, very good, ball making player, very good at getting his hands on the ball, but is a little suspect. He can and he will get beat, as we've seen in the past, by your Devontae Adams will absolutely torch him. So those, those better defined route runners will, take advantage of this weak secondary. But what you're really hoping is, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Tuli Pelotu are able to just get after that quarterback, and disrupt the passer.
Absolutely. And with that, give me your record prediction for this team.
You know, It's kind of hard for me, in the Chargers. I wanted to go above 10 wins. I couldn't do it. And so I did the 9-8. I think this is a team with a lot of growing pains. I still think Jim Harbaugh will get that winning record this year. I think Jim Harbaugh himself is worth, probably two extra wins to this team. he's going to help compensate for, the not very good roster. But yeah, I think the Chargers are 9-8. I don't think they're a playoff team this year, but I think they're stepping in the right direction. I think they're going to be close next year.
Yeah, I like it. I'm almost on the same wavelength as you. I think there will be some growing pains with the whole new coaching staff coming in and a lot of youth on this team, especially the offensive side. I have an 8-9 record, so one less win than you. I have them finishing tied for second, but with tiebreakers, I have them finishing third in the division at 8-9. Vegas win total has them at 8.5 wins. So we're both slightly on the over for this team. I'm right spot on with Vegas. I do want to say Vegas has them with the same win total as the Browns, which kind of surprised me. I do that kind of shocked me. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe they're just really low on the Browns. Maybe they have a crazy schedule, but that did surprise me.
One thing I have to ask you, Dan, just because I got to shout out my boy. Where do you rank Mr. Cameron Dicker where do you rank him for kickers in the league?
I wish I had a kicker ranking off the dome, but I mean, he's definitely. I liked him before he was even a Charger. I really thought I knew he was going to be good coming out of Texas. I did really like him, and I just kind of had a feeling he's got the aura to him. The Chargers had the number one special teams in the NFL last year on PFF, so I do think he's getting close to top five already, and he's young, so you got to love it.
Oh, he was perfect 4 for 4 from 50 in the preseason. He's just he's incredible. For our sneak peek for our awards, I was debating texting you that I wanted Cameron Dicker for my MVP, but I couldn't do it. But I really wanted to, so I have to throw that out there.
That would be disrespectful to Herbert. That would mean he's just stalling in every single drive. But all
Draft
right.
Cameron Dicker in your fantasy leagues. You will not regret it this year, I promise.
Yeah, he was good last year in fantasy, and I probably will be targeting him as well, honestly. I don't think he's a name that will be flying off the board early, so you can get him with value like that shout. But let's move on to the next team. The Denver Broncos finished 8-9 last year. I will say they finished 8-9 with a quarterback kind of actively bringing them down, a quarterback that just did not work with Sean Payton. He completely clashed with Sean Payton. It was just a mess. Russell Wilson I mean, Sean Payton had this team one game out of the playoffs. All they had to do was beat the Patriots to make the playoffs, and Russell Wilson just did his best terrorist act and just completely just ruined the Broncos season, just ran into sacks. He had no really sense of pressure. And he just, whenever he did sense pressure, he just ran around in circles. Russell Wilson was a mess. So I do want to go on to this team's offseason because I do think they stayed about the same, but they bring in a quarterback that Sean Payton will actually like to work with. He actually perfectly fits Sean Payton. I think the way Bo Nix plays, quick processing, insanely quick processing, accurate, on time, quick delivery. He can kind of create arm angles creatively when he's under pressure to get the ball out. Pretty solid athlete as well. I think he was kind of underrated in every aspect coming into the draft, and I was kind of guilty as well. I underrated him as well, but watching him this offseason, he really has impressed, and I do think he's a perfect extension of Sean Payton on the field. So I am excited for Bo Nix. I'll talk about him as a first addition. The rest of the additions, nothing too big. They get Josh Reynolds over from Detroit just to, be that starting slot receiver, it looks like. So that should be a solid, reliable receiver for Bo Nix. They bring in Cody Barton and Brandon Jones on the defensive side. Barton's coming off a pretty bad season. He will be starting. Brandon Jones coming off a pretty bad season. Broncos paid him the bag. Surprisingly to me, I didn't like that at all. I would have rather just had Justin Simmons, really any safety. There's a lot of good safeties available on the market. So I didn't love that signing, but he will be a solid starter that can, be good in the box, not the best in coverage. Um, there are some losses. You lose Russ, you lose Jerry Judy, Lloyd Cushenberry, who I thought was one of the best centers in the NFL last year. You lose Josie Jewell, Tim Patrick, and Samjay P. Ryan today. So you do have some losses. There will be, a youth movement going on with this team. So they will have some, growing pains, a learning curve. But I do think overall it's a positive offseason. You can kind of tell it's Sean Payton's offseason. He's the GM now, and all the moves being made are his.
100%. I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, the second that Sean Payton got in the building, there was an immediate, clashing of heads between him and Russell Wilson. It was never gonna work out. It was a marriage that was bound to end. And it was better that it ended as soon as possible because if you waited another season, the quarterback draft class next year is not that good. And so you got the fifth quarterback in the first round. and he's a stud. So it was the right class to draft a quarterback. And then Bo Nix's preseason has just looked incredible. He's been so fun to watch. And like you said, he is that quick processing, quick throw on time, experienced guy out of college. He shout out Bo Nix was just named the starter a couple days ago. Well deserved. Obviously, you could see a difference between him and the other quarterbacks in the room. There's a big difference between all of them. Honestly, I think there's a tier level between all of them. And Bo Nix was at the top of that. So he's going to be fun. I'm really excited to watch him and Sean Payton's offense. I think he's just going to thrive. It oddly reminds me of he does, maybe a little bit bigger, bulkier. I'm not going to say he's Drew Brees, but kind of that type of passer, that type of quarterback. So I mean, that's the notable, addition this offseason. That's the noticeable player. And then obviously who moved on from the big one was Lloyd Cushenberry, one of the top centers in the league. But other than that, Jerry Jeudy, it was bound to end. Russell Wilson, good riddance. Josie Jewell, you kind of replace that with Cody Barton. So it was just kind of, it's Bo Nix. It's Bo Nix season. That's kind of how you feel about this Broncos team.
Absolutely. With that, let's just go into the offs or into the lineup and talk about Bo Nix some more. I like what you said. He is that Drew Brees prototype. He has, a lot of work to do and a long ways to go to be that guy, but he does have that kind of prototype. I do want to read off some of his college stats per PFF. He was the number one graded passer per PFF of all the, rookie quarterbacks with a 92.7 passing grade. He had a 94.7 intermediate passing grade, which was first among all quarterbacks. Deep passing grade was tied for fifth with a 95.5 grade. No pressure grade was eighth with a 91.9 grade. And then his pressure grade, which is the most impressive and what Sean Payton will love the most, is 91.2. And that was number one in the class. So I do think he was being a little bit slept on just because, he's not the most exciting option. He's not going to push down the field. He's just kind of safe. He will take the safe plays, but that's exactly what Sean Payton wants. That's what Russell Wilson wouldn't do last year, is take what Sean Payton was trying to give him. Sean Payton draws up a very good offense, and when Jerry Jeudy was wide open in the intermediate routes, Russell Wilson wouldn't go to him. He can't throw over the middle. He would just run around in circles like a chicken. So I do think this is exactly what Sean Payton wanted and needed, is a quarterback like this that will take the boring, if you will, options and just move the ball down the field a lot easier. And he'll just be that extension of Sean Payton on the field. So I think it's a perfect pairing. I am really excited about it. I think there's some upside. And yeah, this team, like you said, it really all just is Bo. It depends on Bo. The Broncos' success will completely rely on the rookie quarterback. So it will be very fun to watch. It'll be a fun, polarizing season for the Broncos, but I am very optimistic for Bo. I've got his jersey on right here. I'm just very optimistic. I like what I've seen so far.
Wait, pause. You already have a Bo Nix jersey?
Already.
All right, that's lit. I was wondering what jersey that was, but that's awesome. I realized you had a Bo Nix jersey already.
I'll be going to the Seattle week one, so I had to get his jersey and rep Bo because I do really like him. I got belief in the guy. He's starting to excite me, so I am excited about Bo Nix. The rest of the offense, he'll have to kind of elevate and be very accurate and on time with it. Cortland Sutton's coming off a decent season, came down with a lot of touchdowns last year. Josh Reynolds just a very solid, reliable slot. It was a surprise. It looked like Tim Patrick was going to start on the outside as of yesterday, but he was cut today. So Marvin Mims will be starting on the outside, which is very surprising to me. I think he'll rotate with Troy Franklin and Devon Vele, who Sean Payton really likes. So I do think it's a funny young receiving core. Will be a lot of rotating going on. The offensive line's honestly awesome. I think it's like a borderline top 10, top 15 offensive line. Garrett Bowles, Mike McGlinchey are, solid. Garrett Bowles has been borderline great. Quinn Miners, I think, is easily a top 3 guard in the NFL. He's borderline a superstar at this point. I really love what I see from him. I want to see him get a little bit better in pass protection, but he's just a mauler in the run game. Ben Powers is serviceable. Don't really love Wattenberg starting. We have Alex Forsyth, Bo Nix's college center from before Jackson Powers Johnson, and apparently he didn't win the starting job, so I do want to see him get out there. I don't really love Wattenberg. Javonte Williams in the backfield with they released Pirine, so it will be McLaughlin as the third down receiving back. They have Audric Estime and Blake Watson as well. I do think Javonte Williams will be solid. Sean Payton's had every single offense that he's ever been a part of. The running backs have had top 5 receptions in the NFL. So Javonte will get receptions. McLaughlin will get a lot of receptions. And I do think it'll be a solid offense that will surprise some people. At the same time, you can't expect too much because it's so young.
Yeah, very young. On paper, there's not a lot of superstars. Obviously, you got Quinn Miners there, who is a superstar. He's one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the league. So I'm super excited about him. He got the bag this offseason. Cortland Sutton, from a fantasy aspect, I think I'm pretty excited about him. I think he was able to pull in a lot of touchdowns last year. I think Bo Nix is going to heavily, rely on his X receiver, his best receiver. So, with these young quarterbacks starting, and if I'm not mistaken, Dan, the last Broncos rookie quarterback to start Week 1, was that John Elway?
You're not mistaken. So he has to be John Elway.
It just has to be. So, it from a dynasty, fantasy perspective, I think Bo Nix is definitely a fun, person that if you got him, that's going to be fun. I mean, a lot of people have already done their dynasty drafts. If you're not and you haven't done your dynasty drafts, he's worth a pick. I think know, there's a very high expectations for Bo Nix. I think he, could be a year or two out. I don't know if, I say Bo Nix is a year or two out. I think this Broncos receiving core is a year or two out. I'm looking at Tez Johnson to join this group. I'm looking for now I blank his name from Missouri down, the guy you torched me with in EAA or ESPN, or I can't even talk in
College football
NCAA.
video game,
Yeah, yeah.
NCAA, Luther Burden. Yeah, he's a
Yeah, Luther Burden. I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that exciting, electric, playmaker on this offense. I think Cortland Sutton's awesome, but I want this Broncos offense, next season, to have a Luther Burden, to have, a McMillan from Arizona. I'm looking for a guy like that to really elevate this team.
Yeah, that would be absolutely beautiful. Hopefully, they can go that direction in the first round. I would love Tez Johnson, like you said, Bo Nix's brother-in-law. That would be absolutely beautiful. I do have hope for Troy Franklin. I was higher on him than most. I thought it was a complete steal. He hasn't been the most impressive in camp, so hopefully he can kind of work his way on the field and impress with that chemistry he already has with Bo Nix. But yeah, for fantasy, I do think Javonte and Sutton are solid options actually where they're going. Maybe Mims and Dulcich or dart throws late on. And if you're in a super flex league, Nix could actually be pretty serviceable because he does run the ball a decent amount. He will get some run touchdowns. So I'm just very optimistic and excited to watch this young Broncos offense. Going on to the defense, I think the defense will be pretty solid. It will pick up where it left off last year and it ended the season very solid, had this team in the playoff hunt because they just kept creating turnovers at a crazy rate. They have Patrick Surtain, my opinion, the best corner in the NFL. I think he's just an absolute playmaking lockdown superstar that can, mirror any receiver really. He's had some legendary battles with Devontae Adams even. And yeah, I just really love Patrick Surtain. Can't say enough about him. Opposite of him, it is Riley Moss starting. So that is, in my opinion, the weak spot of this team. I hope that teams don't attack Riley Moss too much. I would like to even see Levi Wallace start just to get some, experience on the outside. But hopefully Riley Moss can hit that upside. Is it Jaquan McMillan, I think, in the
It's Jaquan,
slot?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not Jalen. He's the receiver for the Bucks, two slot
yeah.
players, but Jaquan McMillan, he's a very hit or miss in coverage, but he does have a knack for the ball. He is really good at stripping the ball, getting picks, just finding the ball. I do like him and like the upside for that young slot corner. Safeties, I think it's the worst safety room in the NFL. I'll just say it. Never really loved Brandon Jones. PJ Locke has been kind of a safety 3 in his career. I don't really want to see him start, and that is what we're going to see. Apparently, they really like JL Skinner from Boise State, so hopefully he gets some run in this defense, and hopefully he can hit that upside. I liked him coming out of Boise. I do like the edge rushers a lot. Baron Browning is a star, borderline star in the making. He has a lot of upside, and when he's healthy and when he's on, he can be electric. He's just so athletic, and have those Von Miller type of spin moves, those 2 sack, 3 sack type of games, and just change games. Really like him. Jonathan Cooper is just a solid edge rusher, but I am optimistic about Jonah Ellis. I hope he can get that starting job opposite of Browning. He's looked fantastic in the preseason. I was really high on Jonah Ellis, had him as a top 5 edge rusher. Broncos got him for a complete steal, one of my steals of the draft. He was awesome at Utah, just a relentless, productive pass rusher. So really love that. I really loved trading for John Franklin Myers. I think he'll be awesome. Zach Allen is actually really solid, had a great year last year, was better than Draymond Jones, who they moved on from. You got DJ Jones as the nose tackle, and then the linebackers are pretty meh. Hopefully teams don't pick on them too much because they're not great in coverage, but Alex Singleton and Cody Barton are very good in the run defense aspect of everything, and it'll be a solid defense. Vance Joseph did a good job after that Dolphins game that was historic and really brought down all this defense's numbers. They ended the season pretty well, and I think they'll pick up where they left off.
I'm just gonna say, Pat Surtain, man, just an absolute dog, unfair. I hate to have to play against him. I hate playing against him twice a year. He is just, a superstar. I think it's kind of comical his PFF grade as him ranked for, as the 42nd best corner, which is just not true at all because he's top two. You can argue he's one, you can argue he's two. Doesn't really matter. He is a superstar in the league. Um, but yeah, I mean, he just makes this defense a lot better. I mean, he provides an advantage of locking down whatever team's wide receiver one week in and week out. And so that is just your superstar. That is the guy that is unfair to play against because he just takes away your best weapon every single week, which allows, even if you have a little bit of a, worse defense, he brings everyone up because he's going to shut down that superstar on the other team. So, I think the Broncos defense kind of reminds me of the Ravens defense. They're always solid. They always get after the passer. They always play above their means. And so I just don't see anything different going forward into this year.
Yeah, they just have that defensive, hard-nosed culture they always have. And yeah, I like what you said about Surtain. He really does just like truly, legitimately more than I've seen in the NFL, just take a whole half of the defense away. The Broncos can just play that quarter defense because they know that they can just have Surtain on an island against the team's best players. And he is one of the few corners that does just shadow a team's player, best receiver, no matter where he is. He'll follow him in the slot on the outside. Even Sauce Gardner doesn't do that. So that is where I really think Patrick Surtain just separates himself and he challenges himself and he's awesome. But with that, give me your record prediction for this team.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to go with a rookie quarterback and expect him to be, very winning, especially in a division where face Justin Herbert twice a year and Patrick Mahomes, the best football player ever, twice a year. And so I'm gonna have, I'm s- I think it's a respectable record. It's gonna be 6-11, finishing third in the division. I think this is a young team. I feel like they are on the upcoming. I just feel like we're missing that superstar on offense. We're missing that really star talent receiver, tight end. That really elevates this team to be that 10+ win team. But I think it's a team heading in the right direction. I think next year they'll have a high draft pick and they'll be able to get a Luther Burden or somebody electric, and I think that'll be able to change the culture. But yeah, 6-11, finishing third.
And I'm going to go with a little bit of a homer answer here. I will be pretty high on this team. I went to Vegas this weekend, put some money on this team's over. I am optimistic about the Broncos just because I am very optimistic about Bo Nix and I love Sean Payton. I think he's a top coach. So with a quarterback that's just going to be an extension of Sean Payton, I do think they'll be winning some games that they shouldn't. There will be, a hard out every week and they'll be a very surprising team. So I have the Broncos finishing the same record with the Chargers at 8-9, but I do have them finishing with second in the division as kind of the tiebreaker over the Chargers in head-to-head games. So I am being bold with this Broncos team. I am wearing a Broncos jersey here, so it kind of makes sense. Take it for what you will. But I am going to go 8-9 for the Broncos and be pretty bold because they have a projected win total in Vegas of 5.5 games, third lowest in the NFL, which is why I had to go take that over because that just feels a little bit disrespectful to me. And I don't think that they're factoring in, how good Bo Nix could be with Sean Payton. And that makes total sense. He was the fifth quarterback taken. But yeah, I am kind of calling my shot on this team.
Goddamn, it's a hot take. It's respectable. You have the Bo Nix jersey on, so go off, Dan. You put on that shield. You might get flamed in the comments, but that's okay. You got the money on it. You're gonna have the receipts if they do, overperform. So I respect it. And yeah, I mean, I can say, I mean, Bo Nix is a quarterback with experience coming into the NFL. So I can see how he can step in and he can manage his offense. And it's going to be kind of hard to do it worse than Russell Wilson. So I get where you see the improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. You worded that perfectly. Let's go on to the third team we'll talk about here. That is the Las Vegas Raiders. They had the same record as the Broncos last year, 8-9, but they dominated the Broncos in head-to-head games. So they did finish second in the division. Let's go on to this team's offseason because it wasn't anything too crazy. It wasn't too flashy. They didn't get too better, but they got better because they had one of the more exciting and slept on additions of all free agency to me personally. I loved them bringing in Christian Wilkins. He was the PFF number 7 free agent rank, and I think it was a great signing. It's just going to free up Max Crosby, and it's honestly pretty scary to think about. I think that defense will be borderline top 5, definitely top 10 like it was last year. I'm targeting them in fantasy, by the way. I am really excited for this defense. They will keep this team in games. So the AFC West is just going to be competitive. I'm pretty optimistic about the AFC West in general. You also bring in Gardner Minshew to be the starting quarterback, led the Colts to, a week 18 playoff game, if you will, where they, had a win and end game. Didn't go their way, but he was a very solid, serviceable
There
quarterback. So
one, sorry to cut you off, one
Tyler
catch,
Goodson
one
dropped.
pass. Yes, they were one, and it's blamed a lot on Gardner Minshew, which I think kind of unfairly, the Colts put that all on him, and Shane Steichen put that all on him. I think it's a little extension of everyone there. I'm not gonna put it all on Gardner Minshew. It was a bad pass. It could have been better. It would have been a catch if it was a little bit better. Also, it was still catchable. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gardner Minshew will be serviceable for this team. We both kind of knew that he would be starting. He's a little bit better than Aiden O'Connell. So you do like that. Hopefully he can start the whole season for this team. And I do want to just talk about this team's draft for the rest of their additions because they had a knock out of the park top draft in the first 2 days of the draft to get Brock Bowers at pick 13 where they did. We both thought he was a lock to go top 10. He was a top 10 player for me. I think he's a generational tight end. I really do. Just the ways that you can use him. They saw it in preseason already for the Raiders. He's being lined up in the backfield, the X, tight end, slot receiver. He can really do it all. Him and Michael Mayer will be fun. They get Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round. That was one of the steals of the draft. We both thought he was a first round lock as well. Yeah, I think he was both of our interior offensive linemen. One, I really hope he starts for this team because he is an awesome just football player and he's a dog and he's just a monster, a menace. He'll maul you into the ground. So I love JPJ. You do lose Josh Jacobs. Pretty big loss. Obviously, he's been very great for this team for a while now. You lose Jermaine Illuminor, starting right tackle. And then I put Devontae Adams in the notes with a question mark because who knows what's going to go on with that. I could totally see Devontae Adams being traded like 3 weeks into the season if he doesn't get hyper targeted. Definitely by the trade deadline, maybe. So I did want to kind of ask you, do you think Devontae Adams gets traded? What are you doing with him in fantasy? He's kind of a weird one.
It's tough. I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to think about how a team could pull this trade off. I mean, I don't feel like the Raiders would be happy enough with the compensation they'd get. I mean, Devontae Adams, at how old is he now? 31. It's just you're not going to get what you initially gave up for him a couple of years ago. And so I don't feel like it does the Raiders any benefit to trade him. I feel like they should just ride it out, but I know he's unhappy and doesn't want to be there. But I ultimately think he does stay. I think he does stay with the team. I think he rides it out. Is his contract up at the end of this season?
I'm not totally sure, honestly.
I don't think it is. I mean, that could play a factor into them trading him. But I do, however, think I don't think personally the Raiders could get what they'd want. I don't think there's a team that could mutually make a deal and then also take on a 31-year-old wide receiver, unless it's towards, the end of the season and it's a team, that playoff hopeful, Super Bowl hopeful that gets a injured, receiver and wants to trade for him. But other than that, no, I think he rides it out with the team. And that really quick, I do want to just speak on Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers Johnson because when the Raiders drafted Brock Bowers with the 13th overall pick, that probably was the most upsetting pick in the entire NFL draft to me. It felt like a complete kick in the nuts. I was pounding the tables for the Chargers to draft him at 5 or trade back down a couple spots and draft him. He is, I called him the best tight end to ever come out of football, college football. I think he is. I don't think that's an understatement. I think he is the best college football tight end of all time. I think he's the best prospect of all time at that position, and he's just generationally different. And being a Chargers fan, it hurt my soul seeing him go to the Raiders.
Yeah, he's such a fun player. We'll go on to the offense and just talk about the receiving game because Bowers will be so fun for fans, Raiders fans, but fantasy football fans. He's just going to be a really fun tight end to monitor. He's such a good receiving tight end, such a good athlete, can really do anything. He's just so versatile. Him and Michael Mayer will be a very, very fun tight end duo to watch. It was interesting. Like no one really predicted this to happen, but it is exciting nonetheless. My kind of thoughts on this offense is it's Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers, and Michael Mayer versus the world that will just be Gardner Minshew spamming the hell out of those three. And, there will be a lot of consolidated targets with those three because that will be the offense. The rest of your, guys on your offense, Colton Miller is a star left tackle, so you love that. They don't have Jackson Powers Johnson listed as a starter. I don't like that at all. I really want him to start. Cody Whitehair's coming off a terrible season. Dylan Parham was whatever. He wasn't
He can
anywhere
play
near.
all three interior
Yeah.
spots. It's just yeah, and he's better than all three of the ones
Yeah.
there, in my opinion. So I mean, it's just that I don't know what PFF's doing. Is he really not?
No, even the Raiders aren't listing him as a starter, which is just crazy to me because Andre James they just paid and he's coming off a solid season, so that's fine. But he should be starting at guard. Dylan Parham, he was a fine prospect out of Memphis, hasn't played good in the NFL, and JPJ needs to be starting over him or Whitehair. I don't care who it is, but they really need to just start JPJ ASAP.
Wow, yeah, ESPN has him as the left guard behind Cody Whitehair. They're not even the backup center, the backup left guard, which I don't care. Still all the same amount of disrespect. But wow, yeah, I mean, you got a terrible, interior offensive line, and you got one of the steals of the draft, and a guy that's ready, a very, very smart, high IQ rookie who's just a mauler. Wow, disrespectful from Tom Telesco and the Raiders.
Yeah, I think he's a must start player. So, I mean, I'm sure he will. Like, obviously, Parham and Whitehair will be their own worst enemy and they'll lose the job eventually. But I just don't see why we're delaying getting JPJ some, snaps because he's awesome. He's going to be a game changer, honestly. I compared him to Jason Kelsey coming out because of the way he plays, his IQ, the way he gets downfield and blocks for the running backs. Speaking of running backs, let's go on to our fantasy discussion real quick. What are you doing with Zamir White? I know you're a lot higher on Zamir White than me. Just I'm a little bit lower just because I don't think this offense is going to be the greatest, but I know you like Samir White.
I'm very high on Zamir White. And excuse me, because I should have this pulled up because I knew this was going to be a question. Let me pull up his current ADP and where he is being drafted at the moment. Zamir White. He is going. Okay, here we go. Wow, it is it is a long scroll. So his current ADP is 82.2. So he is going. What does that make him? What running back does that make him right now? Is that running back? Is it the 23rd overall running back going right now?
I think even later because
Yeah,
his
that's
his ADP is the seventh round, the 10th pick in the seventh round behind Mostert, Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, Ramondre. So I think around like 26.
Yeah, you know what? I think this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be a run first offense. Obviously, you have Gardner Minshew. Your quarterback play is not great. Obviously, you have those incredible receivers, but this is gonna be a team that runs the ball a lot on first and second downs. And Zamir White, young age of 24, 215 pounds. I liked him coming out of college. I thought they drafted. It was kind of funny because I remember them trading up, in front of the Chargers to draft Zamir White and the Chargers ended up going Isaiah Spiller. They traded up a pick before the Chargers. But I like Zamir White, and, the flashes that he showed last year, excited me. I don't think he's a great pass catching back, which is the one scary part, the iffy part of this is I don't know how much he'll get in the receiving game, but I could see Gardner Minshew just giving him those dump off passes though. If I don't think Gardner Minshew is going to be that quarterback to take first, second, third, fourth read. I think he's just going to look for the check down. So I could see Zamir White being a sneaky PPR, relevant just because those dump off passes. But I like him. I like him at his ADP. I don't know why they have Alexander Madison. He's freaking terrible. I don't know why they list him as the starter. I think this is going to be Zamir White show. I think he's going to be, the bell cow of this offense. So I'm taking him. I'm just gonna say I'm taking him.
Yeah, fair. I am a little bit lower because obviously I don't really think Alexander Madison has anything coming into play at all. I think he's terrible. But I do fear that Amir Abdullah will be the third down back. And if he's not going to be on the field on third downs for an offense that won't be scoring much, I am personally, honestly, just fading Zamir White. I'm kind of fading Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker as well, just because I really am I'm fading Devontae Adams as well, if I'm being completely honest, because I am a believer in fantasy. I just go for the high scoring offenses. And that's just my personal philosophy. I have heard that Trey Tucker is balling in camp, so that's fun to see. He's a fun receiver. But anything else you want to say on this offense?
What are you doing with Brock Bowers? Are you fading him?
I'm not like purposely fading him, but I at the same time I
Well,
don't
I
really get
I
up.
get it because the offense is just suspect. I mean, how much, stock do you want in Gardner Minshew? I get it from that aspect of like, yeah, I don't personally, I don't want my, receiver that I'm gonna have to draft, high second round, having Gardner Minshew thrown to him. It's just gonna deteriorate him and his value. So yeah, I get what you're saying. It is the Raiders' offense is a little suspect. I think they have the best weapons in the AFC West. Personally, I think their receiving core is better than anyone else's. I love Jacoby Myers, but I am scared just because, yeah, I don't want to put a lot of. I think Gardner Minshew is a great backup quarterback. On the, I think he's a great starting quarterback. So I don't want to put my faith in the hands of a backup.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not purposely fading him. I was higher on him than literally probably anyone in the entire world in the draft. I absolutely loved him coming out of Georgia. But at the same time, he's going as a tight end nine. He's going over Jake Ferguson, who I'm just drafting Jake Ferguson a round later than him every single draft that I can. I love the value of Jake Ferguson, and he doesn't have a Michael Mayer next to him. It doesn't have I mean, he kind of has the Devontae Adams, I guess, in his offense, but he doesn't have a Michael Mayer to split with in the tight end room. And he has a much higher scoring offense and a better quarterback throwing to him. So I personally am just taking Jake Ferguson over him, but that's the only reason.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I mean, don't completely cross them out. If they fall in your laps and it's a good value, take them. Take them. They're great players. Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers are great players. I'm personally on the side of Zamir White. Dan's personally a little bit scared, but depending, anyone can be a steal depending, whether they fall or not. So, don't reach on these players, but if they fall and you feel comfortable with the ADP, then draft them.
Yeah, and if you want to tie him with upside, then Bowers is perfect because he's got all the upside in the world. He could have that Kyle Pitts rookie season because he is that type of prospect. But let's go on to the defense, a unit that I'm really excited to talk about. I think it's a top 10 lock, top 10 defense lock, just like it was last year. I think it has the upside to be a top five defense, bringing in Christian Wilkins, who's been a star interior defensive lineman for a while now in Miami. Absolutely love that. You're freeing up this complete alien monster, Max Crosby, who I think I'm going to call my shot here. I did it with Myles Garrett last year. I think Max Crosby will win Defensive Player of the Year. He's just so valuable, such a monster, havoc wreaker, breaks games. And with Christian Wilkins coming in, I think he's just going to completely reach that new top tier to be that top guy. And Stores agrees, it sounds like.
I love it. I mean, there's no one in the NFL that plays harder than Max Crosby and has played with the worst team. I mean, this guy goes out there with his hair on fire, even when the team's down 30 points. I mean, this dude's going out there just to abuse the man on the other side of the football field. And yeah, you had Christian Wilkins next to this man. And Antonio Pierce said it. He goes, I feel sorry for the other team's quarterback because I mean these dudes are showing up to the facility before the coaches. They're getting that chemistry, they're getting that work, And I mean, you just got two maniacs, rushing the passer, and that's all that's going to do. Adding Christian Wilkins is free up Max Crosby. You add another elite guy in the middle, Max Crosby's stats and everything are just going to go way the hell up. So yeah, I mean, those two on that defense together, terrifying, just terrifying together.
Absolutely. And it's not even just those two because Malcolm Kuntz has been a revelation. I don't know if he was undrafted. Let me see real quick. Malcolm Kuntz. Oh, he was a third round pick. Oh, wow. I did not realize that Malcolm Kuntz was a third round pick, but he has been
Wow.
great for the Raiders. He was awesome last year. He was borderline a star last year. And Tyree Wilson has been a big disappointment, borderline bust, with that 47 PFF grade. If you get anything from him, then you're really cooking.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, and I can't believe Malcolm Kuntz, a third round pick out of Buffalo,
I don't
must
remember that.
yeah, neither do I, and he's fairly young. I don't even know what draft class that was. But yeah, he is an absolute stud. I mean, you got Jack Jones just fits in with Antonio Pierce in this defense just perfectly. Trevon Moehrig, yeah, I think he's out of TCU. He's okay. I think he's got upside. Nate Hobbs has always just been okay, a solid corner. But I think the biggest thing is the coaching staff, how he has them playing in this defense. I mean, they were getting their hands on the football. They upsetted the Raiders because of this defense and Jack Jones and Max Crosby. So Antonio Pierce just plays a big factor in this game. The Raiders defense is becoming hard nosed. They're building that culture with Pierce, and I think that's why they retained him. And these players play hard for him, man, and that's they go out there and they perform, and you saw it at the end of last year when he took over, for the interim head coaching job.
Yeah, when they went into Chiefs or went into Kansas City and stole Christmas from them, that was completely electric. Jack Jones stole Christmas from Matt Mahomes, and Jack Jones was just a revelation last year, an absolute playmaker. He'll get so many picks. He's a really fun corner. I absolutely love him. Loved him coming out of Arizona State. I will call my shot as CB2, Jacorian Bennett starting right now. Fourth round pick last year. I think their fourth round pick this year, DeCamarion Richardson out of Mississippi State, is a much better corner. So I will say that he's going to end up starting by the end of the year if this team wants what's best for it, because I think Richardson could be a very solid corner opposite of Jones. You got Hobbs in the slot. Marcus Epps was a nice signing from Philadelphia. You got Spillane, Diablo in the middle. Tommy Eichenberg's pretty slept on. Luke Masterson had a really good season last year. Really, just honestly like this defense. I think it's going to be very solid and just keep this team in a lot of games.
Yeah,
Again,
you said it. Yeah, you just said it perfectly. It's going to keep this team in a lot of games. And I just think the culture and who Antonio Pierce is, it's just these guys love him, man. He's a player's coach and he's just going to play hard.
yeah, Antonio Pierce, Patrick Graham, they have this defense playing with their heads on fire. Give me your record prediction for this team, though.
I got the Raiders, sadly, at last in this division, which I think is very fair. Sorry, Raiders fans. You guys, I have you at 5-12. The overall roster, you've got some superstars. You've got some superstars on offense, but really your downfall is going to be your quarterback in Gardner Minshew. You're just there's skill levels, and honestly, I love Antonio Pierce. I think he's got a good hard nosed culture, but you're also playing against three football Hall of Fame coaches in Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and Jim Harbaugh. So your division is an absolute bloodbath. You're playing against legendary coaches, and the Raiders got some time, man. I mean, Devontae Adams is aging. There is a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential with your Brock Bowers, with your Jackson Powers Johnson. I love Jacoby Myers. I think they're going to have a high draft pick, and I think this team, there's going to be a lot of potential moving forward. But this roster is just not there yet for me, man, and neither is the coaching staff. And I don't love Tom Telesco. I've seen what he's done with the Chargers over the last decade, and so I do worry a little bit about roster construction for the Raiders moving forward, just because I've seen it with the Chargers over the past 10 years. And like I said, you'll have these star talent guys, you'll have your Devontae Adams, you'll have these big name guys, but the depth behind them and the overall construction of the roster is very suspect and ends up biting you in the ass, come playoffs, come week 15, 16 when the injuries start piling up. So I do question the management, and I question why they hired Tom Telesco. I don't think he deserved or earned the right to, have another general managing job in the NFL.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about the coaches in this division are just absolutely insane. They're stupidly good. So I do have this team finishing fourth as well. I have them a little bit more competitive than you, finishing 7-10. So they will, be winning games. They'll be very serviceable. They'll be in a lot of games. And I honestly just think this will be a very tight division. Teams 2, 3, and 4 will be just in a complete dog race and just a dog fight, really. And it'll be very, very close. Vegas has them with a 6.5 win total over under. So we kind of just split. I'm a little bit over, you're a little bit under. And yeah, Dak Prescott to the Raiders in 2025. How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't hate it. I could see it, and it does feel like, it feels like a Tom Telesco move. I will throw that out there. I think, it might be inevitable. If he can't lead a deep playoff run, I think it might be inevitable that he moves on from the team. So that would make a lot of sense, and it would just add another good quarterback to the AFC West, which would just be awesome. Just be awesome for us.
Yeah, exactly what the AFC West needs. But speaking of great quarterbacks, let's go talk about the best quarterback in the NFL. In my opinion, the best quarterback in NFL history. He's definitely on that trajectory to be the GOAT on that pace. Let's talk about the Devils, the Sith, whatever you want to call them, the Darth Chiefs. Finished 11-6 last year, Super Bowl champs, two in a row, Super Bowl champs. They're never going to lose. The beginning of the season, it seemed like they were starting off a little bit rough. Maybe they finally could be beatable. And then by the end of the season, they just picked up like a rolling snowball and they were just hot and they weren't going to be beat. So Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, they'll have this team like that pretty much every single year forever. They go and get the number one free agent available this offseason in Chris Jones. They re-sign him. So that is fun for the league that uh, a very, very solid defensive player, one of the best in the NFL, is back with the Super Bowl champs. But other than that, they really just stay the same. They kind of, brought in Drew Tranquill, CEH, as re-signings, brought in Hollywood Brown. They do lose. I would say like their one notable loss is L'Jarius Sneed. That is a little bit rough. They trade him, and he was very solid for them last year. He was a top corner. As you see, he was a number 10 free agent for PFF. So that is a loss for sure. You're going to need a young corner to step up and replace him. But other than that, it's the Chiefs. They re-signed Juju as well, if that matters to anyone. But yeah, it's the Chiefs. They'll be the same as every year.
Just gotta say something real quick. Just, side tangent. Shout out Jake Tay, our boy, our most loyal listener. Sorry to make you wait till the very end of this video to finally hear, your beloved Chiefs. But gotta shout out our boy Jake. Gotta give him a little shout out. Gotta give him a little love. We're gonna talk about your team. We'll take our time talking about the Chiefs, even though they are our arch nemesis. They are the villains. They are evil. They're going for that three-peat, and it is just brutal because this team is so good. It doesn't matter who's on this team. You have Patrick Mahomes, and it doesn't matter if you start out 0-6 because you'll probably eventually win the Super Bowl, because that's what the Chiefs do. And I'm terrified, man. I really do think they could three-peat. I don't think it's outlandish. I think it's very reasonable because who's stopping Patrick Mahomes? Who's stopping Travis Kelce? Who's stopping Andy Reid? No one can do it. No one can do it. The best roster in the NFL last year, the 49ers, the Baltimore Ravens, who were just this incredible team. It just, like you said, it's a rolling snowball. It gets hot and it just runs everyone over. I mean, teams make mistakes. The Chiefs don't make mistakes in the playoffs. Zay Flowers doing his little early celebration and fumbling in the end zone. That doesn't happen with the Chiefs because they are so well coached. They are so well disciplined. They're just incredible. And, you retain Chris Jones, which I don't know how they did because he wants that three-peat. He knows that three-peat's coming. You don't lose much. I thought they had a solid draft. I just they do everything right, man, and it's frustrating as a Broncos and a Chargers fan, but I fear this is a three-peat.
Frustratingly insane roster, building, just great management by Veach and just this whole upper management for the Chiefs. It's just great stuff. Really, it's beautiful. Let's go into the offense. We don't even really need to talk about the offense too much because it's just so good. We all know how good this offense is. We all know who all these star players are. Let's just talk about the fantasy aspect of this offense. Patrick Mahomes, the number two graded PFF quarterback. He was good in fantasy last year. He'll be good this year. I don't love taking quarterback high, but if you take Mahomes high, no one's going to fault you for it. Travis Kelce, the second graded PFF tight end in the NFL last year. So that, connection, both graded top two, fitting for sure. Travis Kelce still has it. He ended the season very solid in the playoffs. He was a normal superstar Travis Kelce self. He's going as a tight end one again, which is fitting because it is Travis Kelce. So, take Travis Kelce. No one will fault you for that as well. I do think Isaiah Pacheco, who's going very high now, who's going second round almost, early third round. I do think Isaiah Pacheco is one of the best values in fantasy. I'm definitely really targeting Pacheco. He will be a three down workhorse back for one of the best offenses in the NFL. So, really love Pacheco. I'm kind of targeting all three of the receivers because I just want a piece of this offense. Honestly, I just want Chiefs on my fantasy football team. I think Xavier Worthy will be awesome in fantasy. He's a first round receiver going to play with Patrick Mahomes. Don't really need to say too much more. He's a very athletic, freak. He was the fastest 40-yard dash time of all time. So he'll be fun. He'll get those long splash plays. Rashi Rice, end of the season as a borderline star. He was just a PPR merchant for Mahomes, the 14th graded PFF as a receiver as a rookie, 85 PFF grade. He's just absolutely awesome. And then they bring in Hollywood to take the top off the defense. Beautiful stuff. They bring in Kingsley Suamataia to block for Mahomes' blind side, and I loved him. One of my favorite prospects out of BYU. He's going to be awesome. Andy Reid type of player. He'll be a starter for a long time here. Creed Humphrey, top four center in the NFL. Donovan Smith, Joe Tooney. It's just insane, insane stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City Chief select pick number 63, Kingsley Suamataia, BYU. Let's go Chief. Um, they just knock it out of the park. Sorry, Jamal Charles, just had to give you a little roast there on the Seekers podcast. But yeah,
He was so
Xavier
nervous.
Worthy. I was gonna see if you noticed with the 63 pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Kansas City Chief select Kingsley Suamataia,
I felt
offensive
bad.
tackle.
I felt so
Offensive
bad.
I did too. That was just mean. That was just mean making him go up there. And Kingsley Suamataia is a hard name to
Yeah, that's a
say.
rough name to make somebody.
That's brutal. They set him up for failure. Um, Funny though. I mean, not funny. I kind of felt bad, but it's kind of funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was a steal of a pick though. He's gonna go in there, start at left tackle, probably gonna be an all pro, probably gonna play 10 years. Probably gonna be incredible, probably best tackle in the league next year. Xavier Worthy, I don't know, probably Tyreek Hill. Rasheed Rice not gonna get suspended, probably gonna go for 1,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. Mahomes probably going to throw it. You get what I'm saying. The Chiefs are just crazy. Like you said, there's not much to talk about. It's Mahomes. Everyone's elevated. Andy Reid's genius. Draft Mahomes, Kelce, Pacheco. How high are you drafting Isaiah Pacheco? Like what running back do you have him listed as right now? Because I've gotten super high on him over the past few weeks. I think he's just going to be incredible.
So I have my running back rankings pulled up, and I am very high on him. I have him ranked right behind Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley, who are going as the running backs 5 and 6. So I'm taking him anywhere in the second round, really. I am very high on him. I think he'll be a workhorse for this team. I think he's just going to be catching a lot of balls, scoring a lot of touchdowns. I'm taking him over, Devon Achane, Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. I'm really high on Pacheco. So I absolutely love that look. And like, look at the interior. You got Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, Joe Tooney. All three were graded as top 10 interior offensive linemen in PFF. I mean, this team is just stupid.
Oh yeah, 100%. I like what you said there about Isaiah Pacheco because I kind of have him in that exact same spot. I am so high on him last year, and I think that's how the Chiefs are going to ride out the middle of their season and through till the end to where they really need to rely on Mahomes. I think this is going to be the run for Chiefs again. I could kind of see Isaiah Pacheco being even that 10 plus touchdown guy and 1,000 yards. I could see this being his I mean, he was awesome last year. I could see this really being his breakout season to make him borderline a first round pick next year in fantasy football draft. So, and one other guy, Rashee Rice, obviously his ADP is fallen because of, the possible suspension and, him obviously in the DUI and getting out of his car and running. But I don't know if he's going to get suspended this year, dude. I don't know if there's going to be a suspension. And right now, his ADP is way the hell too low for being, Mahomes, one of Mahomes' best targets and is his favorite wide receiver. So I think, I think he's worth, reaching a round or two early just to get him because I mean his ADP is way too low, and somebody in your, league realizes that they're gonna take him. But yeah, I mean where he's being drafted in fantasy drafts way too low. So get all the Rashee Rice stock you can get.
Completely agree. I'm hyper targeting Rashi in drafts like Mahomes hyper targets him in games. We saw it in the preseason. Even Andy Reid will just elevate everything. The one of the best play callers of all time, and that is no hyperbole. He could go down as the best coach of all time. This is the best coaching tandem in the NFL will go to the defense because Steve Spagnuolo Spags is a complete menace on the defense. He'll just blitz the hell out of you. He's a relentless play caller. He's a perfect defensive play caller. He'll elevate this entire defense as well. So, it's pretty much the exact same defense as last year, coached up by Spags. It's going to be awesome. The only thing is they lose their CB1 in L'Jarius Sneed, but I honestly thought Trent McDuffie was their CB1. I was really high on Trent McDuffie. He was a fourth graded corner in PFF last year. I think he's a superstar. I thought he was going to be a superstar coming out of Washington. A brilliant just move from the Chiefs front office to go up and trade one spot above the Bills, who would have definitely taken McDuffie in that draft. So just the Chiefs are perfect. They've got McDuffie. They got Shamari Connor, who was a hit in the slot. You love that. You kind of just really need to hope that one of the corners in Najee Johnson or Jalen Watson can really step up and be very solid on the outside. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful defense. Don't even really need to talk about it. Chris Johnson, awesome superstar type of player, the fifth graded defensive interior player last year. I just love this team. And then you've got sadly Amenahu with the torn ACL in the playoffs last year. Hopefully he can get back by the end of the year, but this team will be just as good as last year. Very similar with, two of the best coaches in the NFL.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Steve Spagnuolo, and it's just they're gonna play incredible. Chris Jones, all pro, all decade, superstar, just a dominant force to be reckoned with. McDuffie, incredible. All these guys are gonna play above their wages. And that's just what the Chiefs are. They get these players to come in here. They have the perfect game plan formulated, and they all play incredible at the right time. So
Absolutely. And we're going to
that's what
skip.
the Chiefs do. That's what they'll always be. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, you froze a little bit there, but we're going to skip our predicting the record for the Chiefs and we'll save that for the very end. And do you want to just go on to your AFC West offensive MVP?
Yes. Yes. And it's the only right answer, and it's the only right answer for the entire NFL. It's obviously Patrick Mahomes. There's no one else it could possibly be, even though there's a superstar quarterback, Justin Herbert, with the Chargers. There's Mahomes in this division, so it's always going to be Mahomes until proven otherwise. And when the three-peat is alive and possible and looking like a higher likely chance that the Chiefs three-peat than any other person in this division makes the playoffs, then it's always got to be Mahomes.
Has to be Mahomes, Darth Mahomes. Like I said earlier, I think he's the best quarterback of all time. Just physically, he can do it all. He's definitely on pace to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time, like statistically with the trophies to back it up. So not even really too much to say on Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, the best player in the league. He has to be the offensive MVP for the division. We'd be crazy not to say so. Who do you think will be the defensive MVP?
It's the other GOAT on the other side of the football, and it's Max Crosby because he is the best defensive player in this division. He's dominant. This guy, I'm like I said, I don't know if I've ever seen a football player play harder, play with more passion, play with more grit than Max Crosby. And like you said, and like I loved your shout out earlier, you think he's gonna be, the defensive MVP for the league. You think he's the best defense player in the league. So I absolutely love it. he's just, he's a force of nature, man. He's built different.
Yeah, you said it already. With Christian Wilkins coming in, I do think he wins Defensive Player of the Year last year. I think he had a shout to do so last year. I think this defense could be a top five defense in the NFL. Target the Raiders defense in fantasy. I think they're like the most slept on defense in fantasy, definitely targeting them. Want to shout out Patrick Surtain because in any other world, I would have Patrick Surtain up here, but Max Crosby is just too valuable, too much of a freak, too much of a havoc wreaker, not to put up here, but shout out to Patrick Surtain as well. Give me your rookie of the year for the division.
We're gonna go with the hometown kid. We're gonna go with Lad McConkey. I think both of us are gonna show our teams a little love here. I think Lad McConkey goes into an offense that just lost their two best receivers. Their two receivers that have been there for a decade, and there's a big share of targets going around. And Justin Herbert is more than capable of getting him the football. This guy is crisp. He reminds me of Keenan Allen. I think this is going to be a rookie wide receiver with 100 plus targets, and so that's my rookie of the year. Draft him in fantasy. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I've got him stupidly high up my board in fantasy. I'm not even going to say how high I have him because we have our draft here in a few days, but I am definitely targeting Lad McConkey.
Wheel it out, Dan. I need to know this information.
I think he
We're
could be a
friends.
league winner in fantasy, and I'll leave it at that. I definitely am targeting Lad McConkey in all my leagues. I think he has the Cooper Cup type of potential in this offense, especially where he is the best receiver in this offense physically, personally. I think Justin Herbert will fall in love with him and have a very good connection with him. I went with Bo Nix, though. I just am very optimistic about Bo Nix. I think the Broncos surprised a lot of people. I think Bo Nix surprises a lot of people. He's looked very sharp all offseason, and he's just the perfect guy for Sean Payton. So very exciting young division. There's some exciting young rookies to talk about. You could have talked about Xavier Worley and Jackson Powers Johnson, Brock Bowers. A lot of good rookie classes in this draft. But what we skipped earlier, give me who you think will be the winner of this division.
It's gonna be the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're gonna go, in my opinion, 12-5. I think they're gonna have a slow start. It's gonna be a slow burning fire. But by week 18, it's gonna be a full-on bonfire. Everyone's gonna be running around with their head on fire. And it's they're gonna do what the Chiefs do. They're gonna upset everyone in the playoffs. They're gonna win the Super Bowl. And I hate to say it, I really don't want them to, but I fear the worst. I fear that the evil empire will not be defeated. And I fear that Patrick Mahomes, the greatest football player of all time, will prevail and he'll do something that no one else has been able to do.
Yep, I'm right there with you. You have the Chiefs finishing 13-4, first in the division. You have to predict the Chiefs to rule this division as they have for like the last decade now at this point. The Chiefs are just insane. Don't really need to say too much about it. They're going for that three-peat. They're going to be coming with their heads on fire. I think they beat the Ravens week one just because I think they've got a lot of momentum going right now after the Super Bowl win. I think they're ready to prove everyone that they can keep going and prove everyone that this is the dynasty that's happening right now. So really fun division. It went long, but we had to yap about our teams, had to yap about this AFC West, a very fun, polarizing, young, good, competitive division. It's going to be a dogfight every single week. These four teams play each other. So really fun talking about the AFC West. Anything else you want to say?
Shout out Kansas City Chief.
Extra hot take.
Shout out Broncos. Hey, let's give an extra hot take. Put me on the spot here, Dan. I was kind of fading out there, but you know what? I'll give one because I can, because I don't usually do the Chargers very much. But I will give an exit hot take, and obviously it's gonna disagree with what I put in here earlier, but that's why it's called a hot take. But I think Justin Herbert could win MVP in his first season with the Jim Harbaugh, baby, because who's got it better than us? Nobody.
Beautiful, beautiful prediction. You had to throw the Herbert love in there. I love it. I already gave my hot take when we talked about the Broncos the entire deep dive. So really, really fun episode talking about our teams. Thank you guys for tuning in to another deep dive from the NFL Seekers. We have one more of these left, the NFC West. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.